Okay, everyone. Really disappointing night last night. Really disappointing performance from Celtic. Extremely disappointing result. And in a tie that I think we all feel Celtic should absolutely, definitely be winning. We're now, I don't know, 50-50 at best, possibly even outsiders to make it to the Champions League phase. And if all that wasn't enough, Paul was meant to be joining us, but he's not here. And that's Celtic's doing as well. The latest catastrophe and disappointment coming out of the club. Basically, the club are meant to upload a replay of the Champions League games at midnight Celtic Park time. It's currently 6 minutes past 4 in the morning Celtic Park time, and there is no sign of this match being uploaded. So Paul's not been able to see it. Therefore, he's not on. Scott is here, though, and we have a lot to talk about. Celtic AM is proud to be supported by Practical CBT. They help men look after their mental health with simple, practical online tools and coaching sessions. Listeners and viewers to the show can get up to 33% off when signing up. Click the link in the description. Get involved. They're great people. Right, Scott, difficult night, quite possibly the night that a lot of us feel we've maybe been heading for throughout the summer with this kind of attitude that's been going throughout the club. Naively, I did think we'd be far too strong for Kairat last night, but it proved to be a draw, and I think a deserved draw for them as well.
Yeah, the biggest winner was Kairat tonight, wasn't it? Not a lot to really be happy about. Celtic didn't appear to start playing until the second half, which I think both Callum and Brendan touched on in their post-match comments. But incredibly disappointing. Not really generating anything. Another game where no one in the forward line really troubles a keeper or their backup or stretches a defence. And we can see this coming from a mile away, I think, if we're really honest about it, because they haven't scored a goal all year.
The starting lineup that we had for the game was Schmeichel, Johnston, Carter-Vickers, Scales, Tierney, McGregor, Hatate, Nygren, Forrest, Maida, and Ida. It was no real positives out of that, Scott.
No, early on, the defence looked a little bit nervy. Midfield wasn't really able to be that link from the back to the forward line. And then from out wide, there's just not a lot. Forrest gave a bit of energy. Maida hardly touched the ball. He sort of had half chance, I think, about 20 minutes in. And Ida, it was almost like, I don't like slating players, but it was almost like we were playing one short because he was not a presence on either side of the ball. There was no pressing, which is something that was a feature in some of those pre-season games where we did get a really good result and there was that sort of cohesion throughout. That wasn't there. The opportunities were there. But credit to Kairat, they played man on man in that first half. They made us have to think through things and it just wasn't there. Yeah, it's just really disappointing overall.
Yeah, you just got the impression, well, I did anyway, from really early on in the match, that it was just going to be a long night and the passing was really slow. When we did get into like good areas, and it didn't happen too often, how bad was like our final pass? Like how many times was that final pass overhit? James Forrest, Benji Nygren was guilty of it as well. Callum McGregor as well had that one when he was running through and he tried to slip it through to Dyson and just overhit it. Just the basic quality was there, and I was just watching the game thinking, God, like a year ago, what would we have done to a team like Kairat turning up to Celtic Park with the zip we had in our play and the way we were playing it, against much better teams than them in the Champions League. And I think I was even reading online, it's like 6 months, basically 6 months bang on. I think it was a couple of days ago, and 6 months since we were drawing 1-1 away to Bayern Munich and very close to winning that game and taking the tie to extra time. And we all felt like that was like kind of almost as good as things are going to get for Celtic, but equally we felt like it was something really for the team to build on and we could be stronger again this season. But since that game, like the kind of regression in the team, the regression in the quality of the squad is stark. Like, it's quite ridiculous when you think about it. Our last 2 European results are a 1-1 draw away to Bayern Munich and a 0-0 draw at home to Kairat. With all due respect to Kairat.
Yeah, and you look at, go back 12, 18 months, and you could have someone like, depending on any given day, you could have O'Reilly, Hatate coming off the bench. When Bernardo was in form, he'd come on and everyone would comment about the depth and the quality coming off the bench to replace whoever. And now you look at our bench, and tonight it's Simpson, Puzzi, Trusty, Yang, McCowan, Yamada, Osman, Kenny, Engels, Bernardo, Murray, and Ralston. And you're not getting consistent performances from Engel and Bernardo. McCowan has brought good energy in that. He just doesn't seem to really get the opportunities in a Champions League match. I thought he could have come on for Hatate tonight and it wouldn't have been worse. But that quality is just not there. And we know that. And we know that players are getting played out of position when the subs come on as well, because we haven't got the depth in the squad to be able to perform at that sort of level that we expect. And so since Bayern Munich, this sort of performance has started to become the norm rather than the exception, I think. An exception is the big win at Aberdeen towards the end of last season. And that was essentially with the second 11. Yeah. But we'd been bemoaning and going, oh, Celtic will turn it on when they need to, and it manifests in a cup loss. So with no further improvements and loss of talent out the door, I think we can expect this somewhat, which is really disappointing because I love Celtic and I want to be positive about them. And I'd still expect them to at least get a goal on the board tonight, but we didn't even do that. We didn't really threaten or create many chances at all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, two big chances all night. We had the James Forrest one right at the start of the second half, which is a really good save, to be fair to the goalkeeper. And that's the only time I'm going to be fair to him, because dear oh dear, he and his teammates were doing a hell of a lot of rolling about. We also had Dyson's chance right at full time that just summed up Dyson at the moment. And to be honest, Dyson over the past 5 or 6 games, going back to the end of last season, Ibrox, we were there, watched it, he runs through last minute, no conviction. Cup finally had one. The one I thought was horrendous was against St Mirren on the opening day of this season, when he runs through in the last minute and dilly-dallies and it's blocked away. No kind of clinical edge there. And then against Kairat as well, last minute, the kind of only time they really messed up, and they send him through in the last minute. And God, that, if I call that effort pathetic, I think it'd probably be doing it some credit, because it was really poor. But those are the only real chances we had. They maybe didn't have anything quite as clear cut as that, but they certainly threatened us a lot more than I felt they would. They had the goal disallowed. It's not too much in it. The guy's offside, but there wasn't a lot in it. They had the Nielsen shot floated over the bar that I thought was just going in. I thought I was just going to sum up the night after Carter Vickers mucked up. They also had a few shots flashed by the post as well, narrowly wide. So it's probably, I mean, it's not a night to scapegoat players, because everyone was poor. And to be honest, if I'm totally honest, I think about 95% of my frustration right now, and I am frustrated, is with the board. And I don't think the players are perfect here, but I think they need help, and they've not got help at all. But guys, I'm seeing people talking online about Dyson Maeda, and I do think he's gone right off it. I mean, Adam Ida, all you really need to say about Adam Ida is he was taken off at half time, which is not a great look. And I thought we looked a bit better in the second half without him. So, but as I repeat, Scott, everyone was pretty poor.
Yeah, and I think as time goes on, as we digest what's happened in this game, there's 2 aspects to how we feel. I think one is the performance, and the other is what on earth is going on at the club that puts the team in that position. And yeah, one thing I heard about Eder after the game is at halftime he was getting put through his paces with the training staff, and that they really worked him, and then he was throwing up at the end, and they were suggesting maybe that he had been ill. In my experience with sports, that's probably not it. It's probably a sign that he's not fit, just not fit. Drawing on some Aussie rule stuff in the preseason, you used to see guys throw up all the time because they were pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's part of the sort of lactic acid response or something. I'm not a sports scientist, but it was sort of to do with sort of like the waste in your muscles that your body generates, has to get rid of it somehow. That's what it sounds like. Now, if that's what's happening in 5-10 minutes at a halftime break with him, that to me says he's probably not up to speed. And that sounds to me like that's a professionalism thing with him, which probably explains why he's so far off it at the moment. Because he needs to be pressing, he needs to be working hard when he hasn't got the ball, and he's not doing that. And then when the ball's in the area, he's nowhere near where he needs to be because he can't get there. That's where I think with that. I don't like potting a guy like that, but I expect more. He earned his big move. He got it. And now we want him to produce. He's the number one man. It's what he wanted. And he's not producing. It's not a holiday at Celtic. There's a standard of play that's expected, and we're just not getting it out of him. Again, it's not just him tonight, but it's sort of like a pattern we're starting to see here. And we can't afford him to go 5, 6, 7, 8 games into the year without really getting a shot off. How many shots would he have had this year? 3, 4 maybe? That are realistic or trouble to goalkeeper. Not many, not enough production for a striker.
Yeah. I mean, I felt there was a good few crosses actually put in tonight. I think mainly from Kieran Tierney, who, Tierney will have better games clearly, but I still felt Tierney was probably our best attacking threat tonight. He had a couple of crosses in that Eder was just kind of watching the defender just mop them up. And I just found that incredibly frustrating. I also find Kairat's game plan really frustrating, rolling about, wasting time. I guess, that's what they're going to do. But my big frustration with Celtic was like how many daft fouls we gave away, and just kind of, their back to goal type thing, and just they're going nowhere and someone just pulls someone back or shoves them in the back. Like we did it time after time, and it just let them off the hook. It allowed them to, compose themselves and run down the clock a little bit and just calm themselves down. I just thought, where is that kind of street smartness with this kind of thing? Should mention Alistair Johnson as well. That was just if we just needed anything else to go wrong in the game, it was Alistair Johnson. Clearly, I think with a hamstring injury, Brendan Rodgers did say he didn't know much else about it and he'd know more this morning. But clearly a hamstring injury, and as someone who once tore his hamstring, and anyone who's done that will know it's like one of the sorest things ever to feel like you've been shot. I would suggest that Alistair Johnson's probably torn his hamstring there, and we may not see him for a couple of months at least. So that's yet another disaster, Scott.
Yeah, so he sort of grabbed up high, and those ones, again, if I draw on my other sports, that's probably at best it's 4 to 6 weeks. I suspect it's probably going to be longer than that, and then that's if he hasn't done anything to the hamstring tendon, because that puts you out for even longer. He'll have his scans later today, and hopefully we can have some idea of the severity of it. But yeah, we won't be seeing him for all the big games coming up. That's for sure.
Well, I was going to say I was doing a bit of digging. It resulted in me on the huddle board, the Brilliant Celtic forum, and I saw someone posting on there. Listen to this. So in the game, we had 2 different centre-back partnerships, 2 different left-backs played over the course of the match, 2 different right-backs. We had 3 different right-wingers, 2 different left-wingers, and 3 different strikers, as well as some changes in midfield. Like that's every position apart from goalkeeper that's getting altered throughout the game. This bit I did do myself. I worked out that we had Benjamin Nygren, who's clearly a central player, played a period of the match at right wing. We had Dyson Maeda, who, in Brendan Rodgers' mind, I think mainly in an ideal world as a left winger, he played a period as centre forward, and Liam Scales, a centre back, finishes a game at left back. You've got three, relatively important players playing in positions that are not the position that they're starting the game at. And as much as the team were really poor, and I do think we need more from them. That kind of thing is why my real frustration is with the board for landing us in this position. And it does feel like the board have shafted us here going into this Champions League tie. I just cannot get my head round why you don't get your business done early, and why you allow the squad to be in a state where we're going into these vital games that are worth so much money, but even just away from the financial element, are just worth so much to the club in terms of prestige and the excitement for fans, and even minor things like if you play in the Europa League, you have all these Sunday home games that are moved from Saturday to Sunday, daft things like that actually matter to fans' lives and incentives to get to the Champions League. And it just feels like the club, for whatever reason, just have no urgency to get business done. And you go back to that Bayern Munich tie, and from that Bayern Munich tie, you've lost Nicholas Kuhn, key player last season, just not replaced. Why bother replacing one of your best players from last season? I know he went off in the second half of the season, but in terms of European stuff last year, probably our best player at the top level. Just don't bother replacing him. Just don't bother. Prior to that, Kyogo Furuhashi, who didn't even play in the Bayern Munich tie, still haven't replaced Kyogo. What is the plan to do that? Is there a plan to do that? Jota is injured. Is there any plan to replace Jota even for the next 6 months with a loan? Doesn't seem that way. And then you've got Greg Taylor and Jeffrey Schlupp have left the club. Okay, Kieran Tierney's in, but that's not even this summer signing. That was done in like January. But there's no plan to bring in another left back. Like Liam Scales, a centre back, is our other left back, even though we know that Tierney can only play like 65 minutes at the moment. So yeah, you just honestly, you question what is going on here. And that's where I've got so much sympathy for Brendan Rodgers. I know we should probably be beating Kairat regardless, Scott, but equally I was thinking about this. I mean, does Yang get into Kairat's team, if you're honest about it? Is Yang better than their 17-year-old wonder kid? Is Adam Ida better than their striker Edmilson? Didn't appear to be in that game. Like, as much as we should be beating Kairat, and I'm aware I'm ranting here, we should be beating Kairat, we're not giving Brendan Rodgers the best chance to go and beat Kairat because we've got just a squad that is not set up to do it, certainly in an attacking sense.
Yeah, that's brilliant work by the Huddle guys who broke that down. I knew there were numerous positional changes. Didn't realise it was quite that many. But that sums it up. What would you have Rodgers do? What is this magic wand he's meant to have? You can't juggle a team like that and expect that you're going to get continuity of play. You're going to create chances, and like, he's not a wizard. He's done some marvelous coaching moves to win games, but he's also had the players that were capable of doing it. Throwing them around like that, like that's just not going to work. And I think the problem we got now is teams will run at Rouston because he's slower on the turn, so you can beat him there. He's really good on the ball, and he's a real honest toiler, but he's not a star, and he hasn't got that star quality. He'll give you everything he's got, and that's a great attribute, but he's not going to be quick. So you can run pace against him. And Liam Scales got turned around when he got moved over when Tierney went off. He got turned around and shown up, and he was chasing shadows. Again, not his position. He shouldn't be in that position.
Yeah, 100%.
He shouldn't be 100%. Asked to do that. That's not the position he plays. So yeah, it's going to boil over and manifest itself in some way, I think, between the support, the players, and the board. What that looks like, we'll just have to hold on to our hats, I think. but it's just that's a horrid position for a manager to be put in such an important game. Like you wouldn't want him doing that in a cup tie of any real note, unless he's playing a real minnow. You certainly wouldn't do it in a cup final. You wouldn't be looking for that sort of lack of structure when you're playing in a big game like that. So why are we putting the manager in that position? This is a £40 million game for Celtic. The drop off from there is, what is it, 30, 35 million pound difference if we go into Europa. Like, the money men love money. Wouldn't you want that in your pocket? It's good for your bonus and your dividend at the end of the year. Like, don't you want that?
But the irony here, Scott, is they talk about the Celtic board being incredibly risk averse, which they are. But the irony is they're taking this massive risk of thinking that we're good enough to get through this qualifier. And like we're up against it now. And like you see the stuff, you've probably seen that it seems like Michel-Ange Balikwisha is going to be coming to the club. There's maybe some sort of kind of medical issue there, but it certainly seems like a deal has been agreed. I think they're talking $4.5 million, and he could well be coming in the coming days. Like, and I don't know why I'm laughing. Why the hell would you not get that done earlier in the summer so he could play a part in this tie? Like, it's almost rubbing salt into the wounds signing him after the deadline for this tie. We've known about this tie for so long. We've had the big date, August the 19th, August the 20th. We knew the first leg was going to be one of those dates. And yet we still go in and I know the Alistair Johnson injury, you can't massively, account for that. But like elsewhere, the team, never mind the team you start with, the team you finish with in the game, God, if you'd have been told that would be the team you'd be finishing the qualifier with after the Bayern Munich game in February, you'd just be, well, I was going to say you'd be shocked, but also maybe part of you would be like, yeah, this is Celtic, this is what we do, we don't build on a position of strength. Just in terms of Brendan Rodgers after the game, just kind of the same lines he's been rolling out. He can't control transfers. We have to focus on the players that he has at his disposal. We've got no option but to get on with what we have. Really, he was asked about like fan frustrations, and he wasn't being drawn into any of that. He kind of put a bit of a wall up, I think, in anything he didn't really want to comment on. He just brought it back to the players on the pitch, which, to be honest, is fair enough. He's the manager. He shouldn't be answering all of these questions constantly. There should be someone else at the club coming out there. Callum McGregor, another one having to answer questions like this. He's calling for everyone to get together, unity, which is fine. Callum McGregor is not to blame here. Callum McGregor is a brilliant figure for Celtic who wants the best for Celtic, and he wants unity. Good luck with that, because fans are properly pissed off at this stage. But yeah, it's what do you think about our chances next week? I mean, as much as we're obviously all pretty frustrated, even a few hours on from the game, like the tie is in no means over. Like it's goalless, and we still have a fighting chance next week. But I don't know, if you're asking me who I would favour, with everything considered, going away to Almaty next week, it certainly wouldn't be us.
Yeah, we're still in the tie. It's 0-0 at half time, as Callum said. It's just, there's a sense of dread, and I think we just expected better. And Callum addressed that as well. They weren't on it. I mean, if you compare to the talk after the Falkirk game, it was all about the first 5 minutes. There was the second 45 today. So it has to be that first 5 minutes, and they have to lay a marker. Satpayev, he's going to miss the next game. There'll be question marks over which keeper they start. They had a unsettled back four, not that you would have known it, with the injury out and the player playing out of position. So, look, we lose AJ, but I mean, that seems to be the only loss. So it's going to come down, I think, the hunger and desire and what they want out of their season, because this will set our season up if we get through, and it will be a black mark on our season if we don't, and it'll change a lot. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's not going to be easy. Brendan's been in this position as he was at pains after the match to say, citing the Rosenberg tie a bunch of years ago. So it's not impossible. It's just more difficult now than it was prior to the start of this match. It's just more difficult. Certainly not over. We know that if some guys click, we got some magic in there somewhere. We just got to find a way to unlock it and put them under pressure like they did us. I thought their first half was pretty good. It was very disciplined. And we played into that. We didn't dictate terms. We let them dictate it. So we have to reverse the roles for the second leg.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how people would properly evaluate things. Is it kind of 50-50 going in? Do Kairat have a bit of an advantage, or based on our kind of recent record, not the match last night, but previous matches in Europe, and I guess their relative inexperience, do we still have the edge? So I mean, it's a finely balanced tie. I mean, it's it's a huge night next week when you think about it. It's going to be absolutely massive. Probably the biggest night in Kairat's history, and one of the biggest in our kind of recent history in terms of getting back to the Champions League. We've never done it 4 years in a row, so it's going to be interesting. I think as the week goes on, we'll probably get a bit more confidence. A big win against Livingston on Saturday would certainly help. But as you said at the start, there's just a feeling at the moment that you just wouldn't be massively surprised next week if things don't go our way. Anyway, after sitting through that dire 0-0 draw last night, I was starting to think the best thing I could do is switch off entirely. But if you want to keep up with Celtic in Europe, home or away, you need NordVPN. It lets you change your virtual location so you can follow the action as if you were back in Glasgow or even out in Almaty. And unlike Celtic in front of goal last night, NordVPN actually delivers fast, secure and reliable. NordVPN.com/CelticAM is where to go, everyone. We're not doing the top 3 players, Scott, because I don't think anyone deserves it from that game. One point I do want to make is, for as bad as we were on the pitch, we should have had a penalty in the second half when Benji Nygren is studded on the leg. Like anywhere else on the pitch, that is a foul. There's even maybe a question about like a red card, given just how high the Kairat player caught him. But VAR just didn't look at it at all, and I cannot understand why. For me, it's a penalty kick. I also don't get why Kieran Tierney was booked in the first half for a guy manhandling him, but that was, I guess, minor frustrations on the night.
The VAR officials were Dutch, right? Maybe they're on their magic brownies.
Is that the assessment? Is that the depth?
I mean,
of
what other
refereeing?
excuse could there be, really? It was there. Like, come on.
What are you saying about the Norwegians then? I don't know if I want to ask what the Norwegians would have been on, but the referee himself had an interesting night, I thought. I made a few bookings. I find that Kieran Tierney one really strange. When the guy was manhandling him, that he just booked both of them. And but as I say, in the grand scheme of things, I think our performance and whatever else is going on at the club was a bigger factor. Yeah. You mentioned Dastan Satpayev, who picked up that really daft late booking, trying to time waste, and he looked gutted. It was like the perfect encapsulation of a teenager just with no experience doing the wrong things. He is going to miss next week's game. Also, just to clear this up, I saw a lot of chat online about Valery Gromko, the Belarusian midfielder for Kairat, who I did say in yesterday's video was going to miss the game because he picked up 3 bookings already in qualifying. He obviously played. I did see a few Celtic fans getting a bit excited, going, have we got another Legia, Warsaw, Sion type situation? I don't know, Sion might have been slightly different, but this kind of ineligible player situation. So basically, just to clear this up, the story is it's a very weird rule from UEFA. It is indeed 3 bookings and you get a suspension. However, if for every 2 rounds you play, if you don't already incur a suspension, they take one of your bookings away. So Gromko technically only had 2 bookings to his name going into the game last night. So that's why he was able to play it at Celtic Park. And I don't think he got booked, so he'll be able to play next week as well. So that's that situation sorted. As you said, their goalkeeper also went off, so he might not feature next week as well.
Yeah, Zarutsky. I don't know. It didn't look that bad. I thought it was his shoulder to begin with. interesting free kick, given that no Celtic player made contact with the guy. So another interesting decision. And probably appropriate that Anna Bekov, I think that's his name, finished with a swimming cap on his head, given all the diving that was going on. So somewhat appropriate.
As one of my pals said, it was good to see Homer Simpson in goals for Kairat at the end of the game. Shout out to Gio, who's actually provides the photos for the channel. And he actually got a few good photos for last night that I'll stick up on screen last night. So it wasn't all bad. Yeah, just any final thoughts, Scott? I mean, it's tricky. The tie, as we say, is not over. Celtic could go over and win it. I think as time goes on, we'll all feel the belief in us doing that. I do still maintain we're a better team than Kairat. But why the hell why did the board put us through this? Why do we go into these vital ties year on year on year, not adequately equipped? They're vital games worth so much in terms of money and also prestige, yet we just feel we can kind of go into them underprepared and still manage. It's wild. It makes no sense.
They remind me of Scrooge McDuck in his big money safe swimming in the coins. But they don't realise that at some point, if they start missing these things, there'll be no coins for them to swim in. So, like, you look at the football landscape, it's really interesting because they're doing the opposite. You look at a team like Bodo, massive win tonight. Probably, lucky if they have a quarter of the budget of Celtic, doing big things. They're playing out of their sort of, I don't want to say this is the meaning, but sort of like their position in the football landscape, right?
Maximising everything they have and more.
Because they've clearly got a plan. Every department of the club is on that plan. And they're pushing and they're getting the most out of their players. And I can see Bodo potentially getting through for the top 24. They've pretty much sewn up their tie. They had a 5-1 win or whatever it was. Celtic should be doing that. That's what Celtic should be doing, and they're not. And so we find ourselves in this position time and time again. You've got a time in football where wages are growing probably faster than they have in the last 20 years. Like, you can't just draw on the fans to keep buying the merch and buying the season tickets and all the extras now, like pre-season games and European season tickets and all that sort of stuff. You can't keep drawing on the fans and doing this sort of stuff, because that's what breeds the discontent that we're hearing from the stands at the moment. And it's completely deserved. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to sack the board.
As Brendan Rodgers said after the game, didn't he?
Yeah, and it'll be him that cops it in the neck. And those comments from Brendan tonight almost sound like something's going to happen to embarrass the board to get them to act, or he's daring them to sack him. I kind of had that feeling when he was saying that tonight, and I hope it's the former and not the latter, because we're not going to get another manager like Brendan Rodgers come through the door, especially with this year's shenanigans. Who'd want to walk into that? We're top of the tree and we're still a basket case. It's disappointing.
On the plus side, though, your light has held up throughout this video, so it's not all bad.
I'm not sure if that's a plus or a minus for the viewers.
Well, maybe the listeners are okay with that. Listen, everyone, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Just a reminder, you can get the podcast if you do fancy just listening to what we're saying and not looking at our two ugly mugs. But yeah, we'll head off for now. Let me know what you made of the game. I know it's not going to be particularly positive, but plan is to do a video tomorrow. I'm just going to go through a lot of your comments. We can have a wee discussion, and then we can also build ahead to Livingston, because we're only a couple of days away from that game. All good, right? Everyone have a good day.